Hello everybody, I'm going to show you the anatomy of the kidney. So this is a human kidney. You can see the shape of the kidney is like a bean. So it is a bean-shaped organ located in the lumbar region in both sides of the back of the lower part of the trunk. And this area, you can see this indentation through this area, the renal pelvis that becomes the ureter, the renal artery and renal vein. These structures pass, and this area is called the hilum, renal hilum. And the outer surface of the kidney is covered by the renal capsule. So renal capsule is the covering of the kidney. And on the upper pole of the kidney, this is the upper pole of the kidney, this is the lower pole. On the upper pole of the kidney, this gland is called the suprarenal gland or the adrenal gland. Okay, a very important gland. So you have two adrenal glands on the upper pole of your two kidneys. Okay, so now let's see inside the kidney. So again, this is the outermost covering of the kidney, and this is called the renal capsule, this layer. And if you cut the kidney and see inside, this outer part is called the cortex, and this inner portion is called the medulla. Okay, and in the medulla you can see triangular structures. These structures are called the renal pyramids. So this is a pyramid. So inside the kidney you have many pyramids, and the intact pyramid looks like this. Okay, so shape is like a pyramid, and the inner pointed part of the pyramid here is called the papilla, renal papilla. So this whole thing is the pyramid, this whole thing is the pyramid, and this portion which is facing inwards, the pointed part, is called the papilla. Okay, and each papilla is partly covered by this funnel shaped structure. This is called the minor calyx. So the papilla is covered by the minor calyx. This is another minor calyx, and a number of minor calyces join together to form the major calyx. So here you see this is one minor calyx, this is another minor calyx, and this is the major calyx. Okay, minor calyces gets the urine from the papilla. So papilla secretes the urine into the minor calyx, and from the minor calyces that urine enters into the major calyces. Okay, and then from the major calyces the urine enters into this wide part that gets out from the kidney. This part is called the renal hilum, renal pelvis. So this is the pelvis part, okay, that gets out from the kidney through the hilum. And then that renal pelvis gets narrow, long tube, that is the ureter. So renal pelvis becomes ureter, and the urine from the renal pelvis enters into the ureter and goes to the bladder, urinary bladder. Okay, so again, this is a pyramid, this is another pyramid, and this part is called the papilla, and this is minor calyx. major calyx, another major calyx, and major calyces give the urine to the renal pelvis. This is the renal pelvis and this is the ureter. Okay, this is the renal artery that brings the blood into the kidney, and this is the renal vein that takes the deoxygenated blood out from the kidney. Okay, renal artery comes from the abdominal aorta, and renal vein goes to the inferior vena cava. Okay, now in between the pyramids, this part is called the column, renal column. So these are the columns between the pyramids. Okay, the cortical tissue invaginates. This is the cortex, right? So the cortical tissue from here goes inwards into the medulla between two pyramids, and that is the renal column. Okay, and this is the adrenal gland, and if you see inside the adrenal gland, this outer part is called the cortex, adrenal cortex, and inner part is the medulla. A number of hormones are released from the adrenal cortex. Okay, now we'll see the blood vessels inside the kidney. So you see here the renal artery enters, and just when it enters into the kidney through the hilum, it divides into two divisions or branches. These are called the segmental arteries. Okay, and then from the segmental artery, a number of branches arise, and those branches, you see here, pass through the renal column, and these branches are called the interlobar arteries in the renal columns between the pyramids. Okay, interlobar arteries, and then interlobar turns right and forms the right angle here and goes along the area between the cortex and the medulla. That means near the base of the pyramid. So this is the interlobar, and then it goes like this. This is the interlobar, it goes like this between the cortex and medulla along the base of the pyramid, and this is called the arcuate artery. And from the arcuate artery, these arteries enter into the cortex, and these are called the cortical radiate arteries. Okay, cortical radiate arteries in the cortex. And then from the cortical radiate, we get many afferent arterioles, very small arteries. That's why they're called arterioles. So afferent arterioles form the glomerulus, the capillary, tuft of capillary or ball of capillary. And glomerulus is located inside the Bowman's capsule. And the glomerulus and Bowman's capsule together is called the renal corpuscle. So each white round structures you see is a renal corpuscle. That means it has the outer covering, that is the Bowman's capsule, and if you cut and see inside, you'll see the glomerulus. Okay, here you can see the glomerulus, and filtration occurs through the wall of the glomerulus. Okay, and here you can see the nephron. This white tube is a nephron. Okay, and different parts of nephrons, you will learn about that. The earliest part is called the proximal convoluted tubule, then loop of Henle, that you can see here clearly. This loop is the loop of Henle, and then distal convoluted tubule, and this long tube, big one, is the collecting duct. And you see the collecting duct ends in the papilla, right? So from the end of the collecting duct, the urine is secreted into the minor calyx. Okay. So those are the things you can see here in the kidney model. Again, this is a kidney model. Kidney is a bean-shaped organ located in the lumbar region. That means in the back of the lower part of the trunk, in both sides of your spine or vertebral column. Okay, and it has two poles, upper pole and lower pole, and this indentation is called the renal hilum, through which the renal pelvis, vein, and renal artery pass. Okay, and on the upper pole of the kidney, this is the adrenal or suprarenal gland. The covering of the kidney or outermost layer of the kidney is the renal capsule. So this is the capsule, and if you see inside, this outer part is the cortex, inner part is the medulla. In the medulla, you have the pyramids, and the pointed tip of the pyramid is called the papilla. Okay, so the papilla is covered by these funnel-shaped structures. These are called minor calyces. Calyces is plural, calyx is singular. So this is a minor calyx. Okay, and minor calyx receives urine from the papilla. So through the papilla, the urine is secreted into the minor calyces, and minor calyces join to form the major calyx, and major calyces join to form the renal pelvis, this wider part that gets out and becomes narrow ureter. Okay, and artery, renal artery, divides into two segmental arteries near the hilum, and from the segmental artery, many branches are formed, and they run through the renal columns. That means the part between two pyramids, and these are called the interlover arteries. Okay, here, and interlover arteries divides into arcuate arteries. So you see the arcuate artery, another arcuate artery, and from the arcuate arteries we get these arteries in the cortex, and these are called the cortical radiate arteries. Okay, since they are in the cortex, cortical radiate, also called interlobular. So this is interlobar, arcuate, cortical radiate, or interlobular arteries. And then from the cortical radiate, we get the afferent arterioles, and they form the glomerulus. Okay, so those are the things, and these are the sinuses between the minor calyces, the spaces, and sometimes fat accumulates in the sinuses. Okay, so in the sinuses we get accumulation of adipose tissue or fat. Okay.